So we need a motion for coming out of in camera. Mover and a seconder, please. Thank you, Mr. Malloy. Seconded by Mr. Foster. Be it hereby resolved that the Council of the Corporation of the Village of Marrickville Wolford does hereby rise and report from the in-camera session of the regular council meeting, with staff being given direction at 2:35 p.m. All in favor? And that's carried. Thank you. And I do believe now we have the minutes of our council meeting of January the 11th. I have a mover and a seconder for that, please. Thank you, Mr. Helpme, and seconded by Mr. Foster. Be it hereby resolved that the Council of the Corporation of the Village of Marrickville Wolford does hereby approve the minutes of the regular council meeting of January the 11th, 2021 as circulated. Any errors and or omissions? None noted. All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. And we do have a motion regarding from Census Canada, looking for support for the upcoming census this year. And so a mover and a seconder for that motion, please. Thank you, Mr. Foster. And the seconder would be, thank you, Mr. Helpme. Whereas moved by Mr. Foster, seconded by Mr. Helpme, be whereas accurate and complete census data supports programs and services that benefit the community of Marrickville Wolford. Be it hereby resolved that the Council of the Corporation of the Village of Marrickville Wolford does hereby receive correspondence from Jeff Bowlby, thank you, of Statistics Canada, dated January the 13th, 2021, for information purposes, and that the Council of the Corporation of the Village of Marrickville Wolford supports the 2021 census and encourages all residents to complete their census questionnaire online at www.census.gc.ca. All in favor? And that's carried. Thank you. Just out of interest, question for staff, would this be something we could put on our website, just as a matter of interest for residents? That's great. That would be, I think, very beneficial. I'm sure there'll be lots of information coming from the federal government. It never hurts to help promote that a little bit, as we've done in this motion. Thank you. And next, we do have minutes from our library board. 2 meetings and a motion. So a mover and a seconder for that, please. Thank you, my Mr. Malloy, mover, and a seconder. Thank you, Mr. Foster. Be it hereby resolved that the Council of the Corporation of the Village of Marrickville Wolford does hereby receive the following for information purposes. 1. Marrickville Public Library Board minutes of November 12th, 2020. 2. Public Library Board minutes of December 10th, 2020. And 3. Marrickville Public Library Board resolution dated December the 10th, 2020. Generally, I'd say any, not errors and omissions, pardon me, any questions, but any particular highlights, Mr. Malloy? Fairly straightforward otherwise. Mr. Malloy.
Yeah, just 2 things on the 3rd or 4th page, other business. 2 things have happened, or 2 things we should be looking at.
Could you, sorry, narrow down? The pages aren't numbered,
yeah,
so
okay,
maybe what's at the top of the page you're referring to, and then take us down.
Yeah, it's the, yeah, we should get with that. It's going to be, okay. 1, 2, 3, 4th page in, Marrickville Public Library, it's the minutes of December 10th.
Oh, okay.
2020?
Yep.
Okay. So there are 2 things there. First of all, we did the CAO appraisal Mary Kate's appraisal, and it got done, so you do performance review. And the other thing is, and maybe it's fortunate that we have staff here, we still have work to be done on the roof. And we've put out tenders for the work, and we still haven't gotten any responses. So I'm not sure if Brad can help us with that, with a few suggestions to anybody we could look at and see, because it does need to be done, because the nails are starting to lift and they need to be put back in.
Mr. Cole, any insight into that?
Yeah, Your Worship, I did actually speak with Mary Kate and
Okay.
this summer, and I told her I'd provide her with some contracting services to reach into, to specifically send the tenders to. So.
Yeah, but and granted, we've done that, but we're not getting any responses.
No, I'm gonna send her other ones.
Oh, new ones, okay.
Yeah, we spoke after she'd sent the original ones out,
Yeah.
so,
Yeah, okay.
It's a difficult year. There wasn't a lot of people able to do the work, so they had to scale down their jobs, so there wasn't a lot of bids that went out.
Okay.
So if I'm hearing this, while at the writing of the minutes, if you will, there seems to be in the interim some the possibility of getting a contractor that Mr. Cole has identified and is sharing that information with Mary Kate. Well, that's great. So fingers crossed it'll the stars will line up, if you will, to get a contractor and the needed work done.
Yeah.
That's great. Thank you.
That work does have to get done.
Indeed, yes. Thank you for that.
I know Bob said he would help.
Love roofing.
So this is all for information purposes. Gentlemen, all in favor? And that's carried. Thank you. And next we do have the year-end, we'll do the year-end report from our manager for operations. And a mover and a second for this report, please. Thank you, Mr. Helpney, and a seconder, thank you, Mr. Malloy. Be it hereby resolved that the Council of the Corporation of the Village of Mayor for Wolford does hereby receive report PW-01-2021, being the 2020 year-end report of the Operations Department for information purposes. And I'm sure members have read the report. Mr. Cole is with us this afternoon. Is there anything of significance or overview you would like to provide to Council, Mr. Cole?
No, I don't have anything specific. I just maybe would like to point out a thank you to my staff for sticking with it through this pandemic.
Very good. Mr. Cameron?
I have a couple of questions.
Yes.
In your report, you indicated that we had increased our ditching. In 2020, we identified only one project to be done. How did that affect the budget? By increasing the amount of ditching that we've done?
Sorry, can you just clarify that a bit?
Yeah, in your report, you said that you had increased the ditching
Correct.
for the year.
Yes.
So in our 2020 budget, we had okayed only one road to be ditched. So how did the increase in ditching reflect on the budget? Did we stay within that budgeted amount, or did we go over the budget amount, or?
No, we stayed within the budget amount.
So we were able to increase the volume of ditches that we've done and still maintain our budget?
Yeah, we just, in past years, we didn't reach our budget, total budget for allotment for that thing, so we went right to the maximum this year, but we're able to do a lot more ditching.
Okay, and on your when you table these reports, would we be able to have a more detailed report on specific jobs that we've done? Because it's a generalized report. We've done building maintenance, but there's no specific maintenance jobs listed. Ditching, examples like that. Is that a possibility in future reports that we get something that's a little bit more detailed?
Yeah, if council wishes, yeah, I can break it down a lot more, absolutely.
And also the road needs study. You say that, that the report is being compiled, and when will we have a presentation to council, and who did the report?
So it was Street Scan that got the tender, and we did that through LAS. So they are compiling it right now. We have our first preliminary meeting to get some of those results this week. Just a verbal, and they should have the report compiled, I would think, over the next couple of weeks. And then that's going to feed into our asset management plan.
So are we going to table that report to council before the asset management plan or not?
I wasn't prepared to quite at this time, but if council wishes that.
Yeah, I was just wondering what the plan was. We have a report compiled about roads, and our next asset management plan is not due until 2023, so, and our last one was done in 2014, so that's 9 years. You know, we're sort of waiting for a report on that, so if it would be possible to table that, it would be nice. Am I interrupting something, or?
No.
Because I see a lot of fingers being pointed.
Oh, I was just going to make a comment. I'm just going to make a comment before Mr. Cole responds. So, gentlemen, if I should turn your mics off, I think what will be valuable in this for council is for staff to bring a report how the roads needs analysis and the asset management plan fits together from a budgeting point of view going forward, and it'll. At some point, there will be all the details of those reports, but to see how they fit in from the, if I'm looking to the treasurer, make sure I have this correct, on the PSAB umbrella of things. So there's two parts to that. There's the asset management plan and the roads needs analysis. So if we can have something, it's always good to have the refresher as an example. What's the difference between the report of the asset management plan of 2014 to 2021? Because in my mind, it was a great asset management plan back in the day. It's not a matter of updating it, but asset management plan, I'll use the word structure, has changed since then. Don't need the answer today. I think what would be beneficial if we could have a bit of a summary of why, it's not the 2014, it's what we have to have in place for 2023, which would include roads needs analysis. So something, perhaps a very brief comment at the moment would be great, but I think as, building on Mr. Cameron's questions, how does that fit into the bigger picture, and how is it utilized by the municipality and council when we're doing budgeting, and how we approach looking after our assets?
Thank you. Through you, your worship. Actually, the asset management plan is due, and it needs to be complete by this year, July 1st, 2021. So that is the one we are working on. That includes all roads, underground infrastructure, storm, sewers. That's what's due this year. In 2023, it will be facilities mainly, and vehicles and equipment. So we are currently working on that. The road needs study is a part of the asset management project, and I'm not sure how it's going to work because of the pandemic, but part of the asset management is our consultant is supposed to come and meet with council. I do believe, as I said, I'm not sure how this is going to play out with the pandemic, but that is all part of that.
Okay, thank you for that. But I think what would be helpful if we have just a bit of a summary. I almost said package. Don't need a big package, but put things in context. Just as you said, I think nodding of heads that members of council would appreciate that. It's almost like the speaking points we can use in our discussions, but also see more specifically how it strategically fits into the decisions and recommendations from staff, decisions by council in terms of looking after our assets and conforming with provincial legislation. I think I have it correctly that the asset management plan requirement for all municipalities is 2023.
2021.
2021. Thank you. Okay. If there aren't any other questions on the, I've got another question from Mr. Cameron, and then after that I saw Mr. Malloy's hand go up. Back to you, Mr. Cameron.
Thank you. We, in your report, Brad, you also state that we had a problem sourcing materials. Have we been able to catch up on that? Ensuring that we have enough salt and sand for remaining of the winter?
So it wasn't salt and sand we had any issue with, it was more building materials and stuff for doing renovations and that sort of thing. The building was just the cost is almost tripled, and the supply was a lot slimmer to pick from, so that's where we struggled a bit in securing some of those materials, not sand or salt. We had no issues with that whatsoever.
Okay. I guess I just misread it. It sounded to me like you were trying to source materials like sand and salt.
No, we have
I applied it to a winter comment. Thank you.
Mr. Malloy.
Yeah, just,
Sorry, again, your
Yeah,
mic
yeah,
and
yeah.
Mr. Cameron. Thank you, gentlemen.
I was glad to see in the report, comments about the electronics, in particular, batteries and small tool batteries, etc. Now, I read there that we're gonna, instead of having that one big bin, we're gonna get smaller ones. How many would there be?
Your worship, so there'll be roughly 3 or 4
Okay,
of those smaller bins. And it just allows us to sort it a little better for when it's picked up.
right.
But yeah, you are correct, they will be accepting batteries, so that's a great improvement to the program.
Oh, it's an excellent improvement, yeah.
Yep, go ahead, Mr. Malloy.
And so, when that starts to happen, who's gonna be taking care of that? Is that gonna be Limerick again? Will they be emptying the bins, or how will the bins be emptied?
No,
Might I suggest, sorry to hold you, Mr., would that be in the next motion, which is the contract? We maybe have those, get in the details on that after we approve the motion on the,
Is that the contract?
the year end?
Is that-
Well, I just want to cover
Okay,
off,
no, yeah, fair enough.
just cover off, yeah.
So that question's coming in a minute. Okay, I'm done, thank you very much.
Are there any questions on the year-end report? That's great. Just a quick comment from myself, when it's made reference to the challenges this year of getting, sometimes doing some sourcing and getting contractors, and, a perfect example of that was alluded to earlier from Mr. Malloy in the library minutes about getting roofing done at the library, but being persistent, over the course of the year, you got the materials that you needed, we'll say for the broader operations, and continuing to be in touch with our librarian in terms of the needs of the library, getting that work done. Finally, it takes a lot of time and effort, and we appreciate everything that you and your workforce have done for us. So thank you, Mr. Cole. So members, you've heard the motions for information purposes. All in favor? And that's carried. Thank you. And as recommended out of that and commented by Mr. Cole and referenced by Mr. Malloy in terms of electronic products recycling, we have a mover and a seconder for this motion, and then open up to any questions on that. So mover and a seconder, please. Thank you, Mr. Foster. Seconded by Mr. Malloy. Be it hereby resolved that bylaw 03-2021, being a bylaw to authorize the execution of an agreement with Electronic Products Recycling Association, be read a first and second time, and that bylaw 03-2021 be read a third and final time and passed. Members, so you see the contract is attached to the bylaw. Are there any questions? Did you have anything further you wanted to ask Mr. Malloy? Any specifics?
Well, so who will be taking care of the bins?
Your worship, so it was Waste Management that did the previous service.
Okay,
And they haven't said, I think it's, so it's producer based now, so I'm not sure if they have collectively purchased their own vehicle to do these pickups. They haven't told me what the company is yet, but they will be coming free of charge to collect these as they fill.
okay.
Okay. If there aren't any other, oh, sorry, Mr. Cameron.
So, Brad, do we know when the new program is going to start and how long the contract is going to be for?
Just to go.
Your worship, so as soon as the contract is executed, they said they could have the containers here probably within that week. So I'm hoping within the next week we should have that in place. We still have been collecting materials as, and we have some materials left over to put in these new containers. Anyhow, but, yeah, so it should be within a week.
And do we know what the duration of the contract's gonna be? Are we signing a 1-year, 2-year, 5-year contract?
No, I don't think there is a time limit on it. There's no end date to this one. As the previous one had a time allotment, this one does not, being producer-based, so, yeah, it's, but within the contract, either the municipality or the producers can terminate the contract within a certain period of time, but there's no allotted time frame for it.
That's good, so it's an unended contract, so which is good.
Correct.
So we don't have to keep going through these.
Correct.
Thank you.
Yeah, just on that point Mr. Cameron raised, the only thing I noticed was it's either party 45 days notice that you want it to end, but otherwise open-ended is the correction. Yeah, okay. If there aren't any other questions, oh, sorry, Mr. Foster.
Under the waste electronics and electrical equipment, is there any exclusions from that, or can we get a listing? I'm assuming it's anything with a plug, but with strings of Christmas tree lights, for example, that sort of thing being included. I'm just wondering if there's any exclusions we should be aware of.
Your Worship, I'm gonna see if I can get a refined list from them, but when I questioned them on this, they said there was no real limitation to what they would take.
Got a plug? Plug. Okay.
But I am gonna try and get a refined list.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Not noting any other hands up, I'll call the motion. All in favor? And that's carried. Thank you. So given that this is a new opportunity, I'm just asking staff, do you have a plan in terms of putting information on our webpage or providing information broadly to our residents? Or is that something that's being worked on as we speak, given that if you will, from our perspective, the contract has been just signed?
It is, excuse me, Worship, it is our intent to make the information public,
Yeah.
and we'll do that on our website, certainly.
That's great. Thank you. I mean, it's great, great opportunity. We want to make sure everybody knows about it, so thank you for that. Mr. Foster.
Just wondering if our management team, that it occurred to them to take this opportunity with this change going on at the landfill to put out a document, basically a mail out, details to people what is now recyclable, what isn't. Just to give people an update and an annual refresher on
A
what.
refresher, yeah.
We're not recycling Tetra Paks, et cetera, just what we are recycling, and we've added this to our recycling.
Yeah, I think that's an excellent idea, because I think over time, people, what's the word I want to lose? Lethargic, they forget, needing to be reminded, and others like, oh yeah, that's great, you know, I knew that, and it's nice to see us continue, whatever whatever the result of the messaging is, getting the message out, you know, what we're doing along the lines of what you referenced, Mr. Foster. And I see staff have been nodding their head yes, and they can do that. So thank you for that, sir. And next, we do have staff recommending a budget schedule and process for council. So a mover and a seconder for that information, please. Thank you, Mr. Foster, as a mover, and a seconder. Thank you, Mr. Malloy. Be it hereby resolved that the Council of the Corporation of the Village of Merrick-Wolford does hereby receive report finance -03-2020 regarding a schedule for the 2021 budget process, and that council does hereby approve the 2021 budget schedule. Any questions? If not, question, Mr. Cameron.
Yeah, I'm wondering if we have any specific dates. The document states that mid-February, mid-March. Have we nailed down any specific dates for that? And I got a couple other questions, but
Yeah. At this point, as writing of the report, staff don't have any specific dates, and they'll be sharing with us as soon as they have some specific dates in mind. But they wanted to give us the broad outline of this, roughly the timeline of the steps in the budget process for this year. And you have another question, Mr. Cameron?
please. The stay-at-home order is in effect until February the 10th. As this process goes through, if if the province allows and there's changes made to the restrictions now, will we be able to accommodate some public viewing within the community center? Is that something that's on the table? Has there been any consideration with that?
I
And
think,
if not, how are we going to allow the public to participate? And are we going to give them enough time to send in their requests and their responses?
so I think the budget process fits hand in glove with everything we've been doing from the very beginning, and that is if we can have meetings, whether it's committee of adjustment meeting, et cetera, open to the public, we will. And we'll take our, direction, if you will, from the province and the guidelines from the health unit. So whatever it is, it has to be done safely. So the answer is I almost said obviously, the answer is yes, we'll be consistent with what we've done. In terms of, I don't want to prejudge when we get near the end of the council approving a draft. At a minimum, it'll be on our webpage. At a maximum, we could do the very same thing we did last year and in previous years. We'll just have to see where we're at that time to see what the recommendations and guidelines are in terms of being open to the public. So council can make those decisions rather than making them today, see where we're at when we get closer to the end of the regular process. So thank you for that.
Okay, well, thank you very much. I just, the budget process is a very engaging process, and other municipalities around us have had an open participation through Zoom and so on and so forth. It just, when we're reading through on ours, it doesn't seem to allow that engagement by the public, so I was just concerned that, that was a consideration, and if that order is lifted on the 10th, that we would be considering opening up for a little bit more interaction with the public. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Cameron. Yeah, and let's, words mean a lot, and what we've done in the past, and I would suggest we would continue to do going forward, is when council passes its draft budget, there is a presentation to the public for information purposes. We hear comments from the public, and it would be at our next meeting, we would finalize the draft. Whether there are any changes on the public's reaction or not, that would be for council to do, but the process is council does has the various working meetings with staff, operational, capital, and so on. We come up with the draft budget, and we make that presentation to the public. Whether this year we're confined to doing it on the web page or not, we'll wait and see, as I say, until we get to that point. So, and then we'll figure out. I'm sure people may want to have comments, observations, and we'll set up a structure to accommodate that. Should we only be able to put it on the webpage, if you will, quotation marks around the restrictions at the moment. So thank you for that, Mr. Cameron. If there aren't any other questions on the budget schedule, I'll call the vote. All in favor? Thank you. And next, members, we do have as requested, a report from staff regarding the Chamber of Commerce request for council liaison. So I'll get there are a couple of options. I'll get the front end of the motion on the table. So a mover and a seconder for that, please. Thank you, Mr. Malloy, and a seconder would be, I didn't see a hand. Thank you, Mr. Cameron. Be it hereby resolved that the Council of the Corporation of the Village of Mayor for Wolford does hereby receive report CIO-01-2021, being a report regarding the Chamber of Commerce request for council liaison for information purposes. And then there's the and staff are suggesting three options. I'll put out on the table from my perspective, and rather than appointing any one council member, the chamber has recently, I guess, in the world of the pandemic, invited all council members to participate, log in, if you will, to their meetings and listen to them. The chamber does, after each meeting, my understanding is, haven't always seen them, minutes of their meeting, and that would come back to the council table, if you will, perhaps not unlike the library board, but, there may be opportunities for council to, comment on when asked a question or give a specific direction to staff, again, based on what the meeting is. So my leaning towards it would be the council does hereby request that all members of council be provided with a standing invitation to attend Chamber of Commerce Board meetings in order that each member of council may attend as they please. Don't need anything more than that, but we would get regularly, whenever they have a meeting, the minutes of their meeting, and if there was anything, I don't want to understate, of interest or an opportunity that council could take to be either supportive or do something specific, that would be at the table, and those that listened in would be well versed on what the conversations were by the board members. Mr. Malloy, you had your hand up, sir.
Yeah, I disagree with that. I think.
Use your mic, please.
Oh, sure. Do you not hear me? There. I disagree with that.
Good.
I think what we should do is, as we have done with our other, i.e. the library, is
Yep.
appoint somebody to it. There's a possibility, however slight it might be, that there could be a meeting and nobody from the council goes to it. Because nobody's been actually assigned to go to it. We can all sort of an open invitation, great, but if something else is going on, you don't go. I know when my meetings are up, I mark them off on my calendar and I make sure I don't commit myself to anything else. And I believe in the past, no, I should take that back.
Yeah.
I know in the past, two councils ago, I was the liaison from the council
That's right.
to the Chamber of Commerce. Went to all the meetings, got good information, fed it back to the council, and I thought that worked pretty well. And I think the Chamber of Commerce is an important element of the village, and we should make sure that we have one specific and specified member of the council attending those meetings and bringing back the information to
Yeah.
us. I think that's important, and that's the way I would suggest we go.
From my perspective, you want to assign somebody, and it's your job, if you will. And good point. I certainly don't disagree with that. Any other comments? Mr. Cameron, I think. Yeah,
Yeah, thank you. I agree with Mr. Malloy. I think the importance of the chamber is something that we shouldn't dismiss. I mean, our goals all line up. We're all into community development, business, economic and civic, culture, well-being of the area. So a more developed relationship and a coordinated strategy would be, a benefit to all. So assigning a counselor to that would be good. And also another choice that we had discussed in the past was our economic development officer. So I know, that she's an important component of staff, and she would also make a great contribution, and there would be less restrictions for her in her involvement with the chamber, and the chamber would be able to have maybe a more open conversation. This would allow our budgets and their budgets to line up, so we're not paying the same for advertising in the same papers, advertising, online or on TV, so on and so forth. But a more strategic approach and, would be an asset to both. So a council member or a consideration of our economic development officer would be something I'd be in favor of. Thank you.
Anybody else? I think the value of, and it's going to specifically the request from the chamber to council that we do, and I certainly am very appreciative and supportive of the comments from Mr. Malloy and Mr. Cameron in terms of assigning an individual. Because, yeah, I can see, you know, over time, it's, oh, somebody else will be there tonight, I don't need to go. And then ends up, nobody from council was in on the meeting. And again, the value of that is, comes back to information to the table as well as the minutes. And if there's any opportunities to be either pursued or something specific from council, we can, you know, determine if there's any specific direction for staff to be engaged in something in the future. But it starts out with, it's a request for the political liaison, and that's what the ask is, and I think that would be the right step at this point. If there aren't any other difference of opinions and or suggestions, Mr. Foster, you had your hand up, sir.
No, I think an assigned member of council
Okay.
is a good idea. Also, it would be nice to make sure the window is open that other members of the council could be included in a meeting if there are specific areas of interest for those. We, as council, the Village of Marrickville Wolford is a member of the Chamber of Commerce? Is that the?
Yes, it is.
Council is not a member of the Chamber of Commerce. You would be there as a guest.
That is correct.
And considering it's going to be a pretty one-way street at these meetings in terms of there's nothing that a councillor can offer because they're just a councillor. They can only receive information to bring back to council. That I understand the position of the. Okay.
Okay. So I think we're all leaning to an individual to be the council liaison, and I know Mr. Foster, you've indicated in the past you're interested in the chamber and so on. I don't know whether if you're still offering yourself or if anybody else has a desire. The motion would be the council does here appoint from amongst themselves and a name as a designated council liaison to the Chamber of Commerce. If everybody's amenable, we'll put Mr. Foster's name in.
Is Mr. Malloy interested as well, or since you're in the past?
Not the problem, but I'm already gone on PAC
Yeah.
plus library. You know.
So you're maxed out.
Well, no, I'm just thinking we could share the load, that's all.
I'm not sure if staff have prepared ballots for an in-camera vote as to, Mr. Malloy or Mr. Foster's campaign to sway or get the votes of council members. There you go. So if I may be so bold, I'll put Mr. Foster's name in, and I think we're nodding heads, and then ask for the motion to be, actually, you know what, this is worthwhile doing, because it is important and valuable to the chamber and our community at large. So it's moved by Mr. Malloy, seconded by Mr. Cameron. Be it hereby resolved that the Council of the Corporation of the Village of Marrickville Wolford does hereby receive report CAO-01-2021, being a report regarding the Chamber of Commerce request for a council liaison for information purposes, and the council does hereby appoint from amongst themselves Robert Foster as the designated council liaison to the Chamber of Commerce. If there aren't any new comments, I'll call the vote. All in favor? And that's carried. I do apologize, I didn't turn this on. Unless everybody wants to do some FaceTime with my daughter in New Zealand, I'll decline the call. Oh, gee. Nope. No, she's. I'm trying to turn this off. If you're listening, Jessica, because Dad is in a council meeting, and there we go. My apologies to staff, council, and members of the public who are listening.
And New Zealand.
I'm going to take the.
Does she deliver?
Here, I got a hammer.
Are you calling your SIM card now? What are you doing?
I had a hammer.
I do apologize. I'm sure for those that know my daughter Jessica in New Zealand, she's probably having a great chuckle at the moment, laughing at not at you folks, but laughing at that. And I think I did call the vote. We were all in favor of the motion. Thank you very much. And next, members, we do have a report as requested from staff regarding committees. So a mover and a seconder for that. And then I would, not sure if we have a motion in here, no, but I do have a suggestion for council's consideration for some direction to staff regarding our advisory committees. So a mover and a seconder for the report, please. Thank you, Mr. Foster, and seconded by Mr. Malloy. Be it hereby resolved that the Council of the Corporation of the Village of Marrickville-Wolford does hereby receive report CAO-02-2021, being a report to provide an update with respect to the village's committees and challenges arising due to the COVID-19 for information purposes. So call the vote on that in a moment. It actually is information, and I know this might be in addition to the agenda, but it could be direction from, as a result of the information purposes. I know our clerk, deputy clerk are kind of going, oh, okay, where's the mayor going on this? But I think Robert's Rules of Order, procedural bylaw, we do have that elbow room. So I'll call the vote to receive the report for information purposes. All in favor? Thank you very much. So with that, I would go to this, members. And it does build on a wee bit actually on Mr. Cameron's question, what might we do? Looking at the budget schedule, we'll be down to accommodate being able to say, have our usual public meeting, here is the draft budget. But there are some committees that either, whether it's by email or phone call or seeing someone on the street safe distance, when can we meet again, or how will we meet again? And we know they have a value, and while there isn't anything active going on at the moment, we certainly know that they are all keen, enthusiastic, and want to be able to meet. And I think, while there may be options, we could look at it from council perspective. I think there'd be value in having staff explore ways where our committees can safely meet. And one of the ways they can do that on the, if you will, from a procedural, safety perspective, their staff can bring comment, but I think there'd be value in part of that process of bringing something back to council to reach out to the committees and without being prescriptive of how they do it, contacting the chairs, and it may be the chair and the members of each committee to see, are you, we know they're willing, but from their perspective, how it might be accommodated, whether it's by Zoom, whether it's by telephone, who knows, maybe within a few months, we may be able to have, the regulations may change, where they might be allowed to, again, depending on separation and so on, to actually meet. And if we give that direction to staff, it could speed up, if you will, the process of saying, here's how it can work. Maybe I'll leave it at that. I don't want to get any prescriptive, it could be this, that, or the other thing. Why not bring something back so we can see how we'll be able to accommodate our advisory committee's meeting? If council is in agreement with that, with a show of hands, that would be the direction to council, and at the next meeting, just update us. There may be an answer by the next meeting, or update us that this is what we've been doing, and we're gathering information, and sooner than later having something that we can say, yep, this is how it can work. I thought two hands go up, Mr. Cameron and Mr. Malloy. I'm not sure, before we go to council members, whether staff wanted to make a comment. No?
I'm good, Your Worship, thank you.
Yeah. So I think it was Mr. Cameron and then Mr. Malloy.
Yeah, I think moving forward, we need to bring the committees back. It's something that's essential to the process that we're involved here. They're an arm of council. They'll bring back, projects that need to be identified, reports, they increase public awareness, they put input and advice to council. We're going through this pandemic. In the end, we want to come out a little bit ahead of where we were when we went into it. So by holding these people back and not allowing that input, I think it's going to end up hindering us more than it is going to help us. So I mean, do we not have the capability to live stream or to do any of that? And, you know, what about the committee members themselves through their homes? I mean, most people have computers, most people have bandwidth to do this. I mean, could we not reach out to the committees like you suggested, Mr. Mayor, and ask if their committees are able to do the meeting and allow them to go ahead and move forward?
So the answer to that is we've now been holding them back. I think we all understand, if we go back to, the beginning, the significance of the act, and they're difficult decisions, the significance of the decisions that were made of the health and safety of people in our community, including our advisory committee. And rather than us debating whether most, if not all, have a computer or have the bandwidth, we don't know. Why be presumptive? Why not task our staff to find out what will work for all of the members of our committees and bring that information back so we can put it in place? I don't want to be presumptive that, and I won't name a name, but somebody down, I've got to be careful what road, because that might identify the person, may or may not have the bandwidth. So to say the meetings are going to be by Zoom, it may not work for everybody. Again, let's be sensible about this and say to staff, contact whatever process they use, the chairs, their committee members. Here's, what are the options from your point of view? What will work for you and your members to be effective and keep everything, if you will, at a level where they can all participate. So again, if we agree with that direction of staff, they can be interfaced with the committee members and bring it back to us as how it can be implemented. Because keep in mind, there will be some next steps, potentially, change procedural bylaws and so on, which that's the paperwork stuff. We want to find out what's functional. We know they're keen, council is keen, so I don't want to digress, not in the category of the woulda, coulda, shoulda, is what can we do going forward? What can we do to have our committees active? Because we all understand the value and appreciate them. So I don't know whether you have anything new to say, Mr. Cameron. Otherwise, I think Mr. Malloy and then Mr. Foster had your hand up. Something new, Mr. Cameron.
Yeah, I agree with compiling a report as long as we include the committees in that report. Are they able to, some people are able to continue through this. Some people do have the bandwidth, some people do have the capability. Maybe not all committees can do that, but they're doing it from home, so it's as safe as possible. There's hundreds of municipalities that are having meetings virtually every day. So, I mean, why are we not doing that? Why haven't we pursued that? Why are we 10 months behind? That's, this is my concern. Why do we keep putting ourselves behind the 8 ball? Why are we not being progressive and moving forward on this? Thank you.
Thank you. And as I indicated, the staff would contact and get the, if you will, opinion, views, what might be needed, do you have the capacity, et cetera. So I think I've already indicated that staff will do that step of the process. Mr. Moore, you had your hand up?
Yeah, I was just going to say, I'm just going to use, excuse me, PAC as an example. PAC meets in this room, or met in this room, I presume we will meet in this room. We meet in this room. There's enough space to have the separation that's required and needed. So the only issue would then be if the public wants to come in, but we just monitor at the door and let exactly where our staff are sitting now, let the one public come in, that's for PAC, and work it that way. I mean, it doesn't seem to me to be rocket science if we can get these committees going again. And in fact, I agree with a couple of things that Mr. Cameron said. I think we should have done it a long time ago. I'm just saying.
Mr. Foster.
We got to keep in mind, we've got a shutout so far here in the municipality in terms of our staff, in terms of talking about COVID infections, then our staff, our volunteer firefighters, our office staff. Come on, guys. We got a shutout going. Let's keep going. Any meetings that committees have should be virtual or by telephone. If we're concerned about whether or not people have enough bandwidth for their computer, we successfully held several legal counsel meetings by telephone. We receive advice from our lawyers by telephone. It's a trusted medium, and everybody's got one. So we don't have to reinvent the wheel here, and we certainly don't have to risk. I'm not even comfortable being in this room, to be quite honest with you, the number of people in this room. You know, right now, we're on the edge of the maximum number of people you can have for an outdoor gathering, let alone an indoor one. So, really, like I said, so far, shut out, no cases. Let's continue being safe in the extreme. And if people think that we're trying to be secret or anything, tell you what, folks, what's on your mind, get it out there. But the committees themselves can meet by telephone quite successfully. We don't have to look at each other. Thanks.
Mr. Halkney.
Yeah, I think maybe some people just want to get out and be heard, but we're under restrictions from the Department of Health and provincial government and federal government. People don't seem to realize that. We've got to proceed with their recommendations. So, you know, some people are, they're ignorant of it or what, but we've got to protect our community.
Thank you very much. All very good comments from all members. However, we still want to see how we might be able to accommodate having our advisory committees in place without being presumptive. And, it's not about what we haven't done. Again, difficult decisions were made. They had to be made. We have not had there's nothing being problematic. I'm not going to make those next comments. All I'm going to say is let's not race to failure. Let's walk to success. If we can do this, we'll do it well so that the committees can function well. And at the same time, let's not ruin all the hard work and efforts, and in some cases sacrifices, that people in Marrickville-Wolford have made to be at the point we are today. To our knowledge, at least to my knowledge, not any COVID-19 cases, not to my knowledge. To my knowledge, we do not have any community spread. And as I said earlier, it only takes one case to have a case everywhere. So we'll do this well and effectively, and staff will reach out to the committees in some way, shape, or form and bring back some information for council. So good discussion. That's all very everybody's being very positive. The world has not been perfect. To suggest that we should have done this sooner. Thank you for your opinion. The decisions at the time were good, and I'm going to repeat. The results are, I think as Mr. Foster said, we're in a good place in Marrickville-Wolford in terms of not having community exposure, if you will, for our residents, but also think about it for our staff, and not to sort of have, if you will, second-class staff, but if you look at our paramedics and our volunteer firefighters, and the report from our fire chief, the last couple of meetings, 24 first responder calls in our municipality. Those are, call it above and beyond the paramedic calls. So our men and women, are our first responders. We do not want to jeopardize it at all. So anyway, good conversation. We'll get some information back sooner than later, to use that expression. So a show of hands that direction to our staff. And that's sufficient. We don't need a motion. Look into our CAO and our deputy clerk. Great. Thank you very much, gentlemen. And next we have a confirmatory bylaw. A mover and a seconder for that, please. Thank you, Mr. Malloy. And a seconder was Mr. Foster, I saw. Thank you. Be it hereby resolved that bylaw 05-2021, being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the regular council meeting of January 25th, 2021, be read a first and second time, and that bylaw 05-2021 be read a third and final time and passed. All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. And I do have a motion to adjourn, so mover and a seconder for that, please. Thank you, Mr. Helpme, and seconded by Mr. Foster. Be it hereby resolved that this regular meeting of the Council of the Corporation of the Village of Marrickville Wolford is now adjourned at 3:30 p.m. until the next regular meeting of council on Monday, February the 8th, 2021 at 2 p.m. or until the call of the mayor is subject to need. All in favor? And that's carried. Thank you.